Welcome. In this video, I'm going to give you a few tips on paraphrasing. Paraphrasing means to put someone else's ideas into your own words. It's an alternative to quoting all the sources and makes the paper much more interesting to read. Students can get into plagiarism trouble because they've taken certain passages from a source and they didn't sufficiently paraphrase. And what I mean by that is they only change a word here or there. They might have even cited it, but they didn't change the original phrasing enough for it to become their own writing. I want you to think of paraphrasing as though you watched a movie or read a book and then sat down with a friend and started to tell them about it. You tell them your interpretation of it. So there are 7 steps for successful paraphrasing. Step number 1 is to read the original passage a few times. Really get to know what the author is saying and become familiar with the content. Second, once you've done that, put the original passage away. Don't even look at it. Next, write down the main ideas from memory without looking back at the original. Now you're ready to write your paraphrase. One tip is to rearrange the ideas that were presented in the original. So, try starting with the idea that's expressed in the last sentence of your original passage. That will get you into a different flow of the narrative, and you have a better chance of avoiding saying the same thing in the same way. Step number 5, once you've written your version, now it's time to pull out the original and check your paraphrase against it. And step number 6, if you're noticing any phrases that are identical to the phrases from the original, either rewrite them or put quotation marks around them. It's not enough to just cite it. You also need to put quotation marks around any original phrasing that comes from the source. And last, you always need to make sure you cite your source according to the citation style you're required to use. So let's look at an example. Here's an original passage from an article about sprained ankles and athletes. I would read this over a few times until I'm familiar with the content, and then I'll take some notes. I remember something about how ankle injuries are common for athletes, and that 10 to 30% of all injuries happen to the ankle, and that about 3/4 of those injuries are sprained ankles. And I recall in the Netherlands in the early 2000s, 18% of sports injuries involved the ankle. And then there was something about 23,000 sprained ankles in the US and 5,000 in the UK. So those are some of the main ideas that I remember. And here's the attempt for my passage. Now I want to look at it closely and compare it to the original. The first 2 sentences look pretty good. In the first sentence, there's nothing of concern. In my second sentence, I use the information from their last sentence to change the flow of my paragraph. I even changed the original 77% to 3/4 in my language. Now, the next sentence is also good. I used the information from the original, but rephrased it in my writing style. But I do see that I have a small section that needs to be taken care of, the section that states 18% of all sports injuries. This next sentence works okay too. I decided that for the first part of the original sentence was not important for my paper, but I did use the information from the second part and I was able to rewrite it. Now this last sentence of my passage is a problem with the words accounts for 10 to 30% of all sports injuries. So I've highlighted my problem areas. Now what do? I can rewrite the passage and try to restructure those sections, or I could use quotation marks around the phrases that are used verbatim. Since the wording is mainly statistical, I'm going to use quotation marks to show the reader that those sections are taken directly from the source. Then finally, I'm going to add my in-text citations. Now, I don't want to place the full citations after each sentence. That disrupts the readability of the passage. And since all of this information comes from the same source, I'm going to add a signal phrase to alert my reader about that source toward the beginning of the section. So I'm going to add the author's name Kemmler and a verb as a lead-in phrase in my second sentence. Then I'll add the page number from my original source in parentheses after each sentence that contains a quote. Now, if this is taken from something that doesn't have clear page numbers, then don't add that paging. And also note that this is done in MLA style. APA is going to be different. And don't forget that in-text citations direct the reader to an entry in your works cited list. So for every in-text citation, there should be a works cited entry, and vice versa. For every entry in your works cited list, there should be at least one, if not more, in-text citations. So this is the end of the video. If you have questions, please feel free to contact your Sandburg librarian at library@sandburg.edu. Thanks, and have a beautiful day.